Hello, and welcome to Afternoon Tea with Karen and the 1400 that represent all the young men of Australia.
Australia-wide survey has found a concerning number of teenage boys feel like they're under pressure to adhere to rigid and restrictive ideas about masculinity. The report, compiled by the Men's Project at Jesuit Social Services, found nearly half of the boys surveyed felt the need to appear confident and strong. Of the boys who endorsed rigid ideas about masculinity, nearly half said no one knows them well. 1 in 4 had been physically hurt by someone else in the past, and the same number said they believed if a man was violent to his partner, they probably deserved it or did something to provoke it. More than 80% of the 14 to 18-year-old boys who'd watched pornography had seen women enduring a harmful act. But there was some encouraging data. 80% of the survey respondents were bothered by sexist jokes, and 95% were bothered by the harassment of women. Jesuit Social Services says restrictive masculine ideas are harmful for everyone.
Boys who endorse these restrictive masculine ideas are more likely to use aggression, they're more likely to bully others. They're also more likely to sexually harass women and retaliate when rejected. And they're not going too well themselves either. They're more likely to experience poor mental health, loneliness, and are also more likely to be victims of violence themselves.
Dr. Zach Seidler is a men's mental health expert, and he's with me in the studio. Good to see you, Zach. So what do you make of this report? There is some good news in it, but as someone at the coalface, as it were, what's your take on the situation?
Well, I'm really glad to see that the doom and gloom that we've been witnessing in the media about men and masculinity is slowly starting to die out a little.
Serious? That's your first thought. Mine was the maths. Where are they getting those numbers from that they're getting these percentages from? Luckily, the ABC did another story on it.
A new study of 1,400 young people has found many teenage boys feel pressure to appear confident and strong, and that being thought of as gay makes them seem less manly. The majority of boys had watched porn, many of them regularly. But many were bothered by sexist jokes and the harassment of women.
We've got to make sure parents have the resources to have conversations with adolescents to address contemporary issues that are impacting them. Increasingly, pornography is violent. Adolescents are telling us that it's shaping their relationships.
And a bit more maths from their website. The adolescent Manbox survey was conducted with 1,401 young people between the ages of 14 to 18 years of all genders in March and April of 2025. So not just boys, girls as well. So then potentially only 701 boys were studied. The study asked Australian teenagers about their beliefs in relation to how teenage boys should act. Most people pair off, most girls pair off with a boy that's older than them, and most guys end up with a girl that's younger than them. So the girls that teenage boys would end up with in the future, it's illegal in this country to go out with them at the moment. Anyway, their aims, what they think about masculinity, methodology. This one's interesting because they spoke about that. Heterosexism represents traditions, ideas around masculinity as being in opposition to behaviours traditionally considered feminine or gay. So the gender studies stuff at school isn't working for them. They've had some workshops that were not related as part of the study. Reason for hope. Also, there's $93 million of grants and stuff that were sent out to charities through the federal government to change men's behaviour. So this will be, they could be doing it out of the goodness of their hearts, actually. I shouldn't insinuate that, should I? Many boys feel pressured to always appear tough and confident. 60% and 63%. So 60% of boys and 63% of girls. So 420 boys. Outcomes. The Adolescent Man Box study will offer critical insights for practitioners, policymakers, and educators to inform and design the delivery of programs and practices to prevent violence and contribute to the broader national conversation about the gender equality and the prevention of violence. Still think children should learn Latin, but anyway.
Now, a groundbreaking national survey of adolescent boys has highlighted the dangers that young men face if they sign up to very rigid, emotionally stunted ideas of what it is to be a man. It's called the Adolescent Man Box Survey. It found boys aged 14 to 18 who identify with hyper-masculine stereotypes are not only more miserable, they're more likely to be a danger to others, particularly women.
For those teenage boys that adhere to these rigid masculine norms, when rejected, they were 3 times more likely to report retaliating.
We will not end men's violence without better understanding why men use violence.
Now, Matt Tyler is Executive Director of the Men's Project at Jesuit Social Services and is the co-author of this report. And he joins us now. Matt, thanks so much for doing so. I'm tempted in this to start with the good news because there is quite a lot of good news in your report. Most of these boys aged 14 to 18 do express positive views about gender equality and they also reject sexist behaviours. Was that a surprise?
Hugh, thanks for your interest in this work and also thank you for starting there. There is tremendous reason to be hopeful as it relates to the findings from this research. As you say, regardless of gender, we're seeing adolescents tell us that they want a more gender equal world. We also have seen significant progress as it relates to the extent to which adolescent boys are comfortable expressing vulnerability, showing their emotions. And really importantly, Hugh, we're seeing girls tell us that they are rejecting these restrictive ideas about what it means to be a boy. They don't want boys in their life showing up as the big dog alpha male. They want to connect on a deeper, more authentic, meaningful level.
Oh, Matt, well, I hate to bring down the mood a little bit then, but what did the research tell us was the scariest bit of information?
Yeah, there's some really significant challenges ahead of us, Georgie. What we found is that 2/3 of adolescents who are viewing pornography are viewing highly misogynistic, violent, degrading material. And that's then, of course, translating into their expectations as it relates to their relationships. We're seeing a really concerning proportion of teenage boys tell us that when they're having sex with a teenage girl, they expect to be in control. These ideas come directly out of the reality that pornography is increasingly violent. We're seeing 1 in 10 adolescents share with us that they've seen a deepfake image of a peer. We're also seeing really concerning levels of digital surveillance. The reality that almost 1/4 of adolescents think it's okay to track who their partner is communicating with on social media or consistently call and text when they're not hearing from their partner.
Now, you did survey girls. You just briefly made mention of that just before. I get the feeling boys kind of perform manliness for other boys to get the girls. The girls, in a sense, are saying, we don't want any part of that.
That's right, Hugh. This is the first time we've had research which understands the perspectives of adolescents of all genders. And girls are telling us that they don't want boys to show up like this. And if you're a heterosexual adolescent boy, that is a really compelling message. And what we're calling for from governments is that respectful relationships curriculums are updated based upon the findings of this report. One part of that has got to be what we're hearing from people of all genders around what they're seeking as it relates to these restrictive masculine norms.
So there you go. Get it in the school curriculum. And that'll do. See you later. Bye.